Hello aviators, how are you today? My name is Magnar. I'm an airline captain and instructor. Some days ago I posted a video showing an aborted takeoff from V1 in a simulator, and I received this response from A Freight Dog's Life. To do a reject or aborted takeoff at V1 is pure irresponsibility, lack of experience or knowledge. It is madness. Then of course, given the circumstances, such as an engine exploding and disintegrating at that exact speed, then and only then maybe. On a propeller-driven aircraft such as ATR or the Dash 8, I will only consider a reject at V1 if a propeller blade or the whole propeller departs the engine or the propeller hub. Like I stated above, this is madness. They were lucky that it was a simulator, and they were able to stop just before departing the pavement towards the grassy surroundings of the runway. I enjoy your channel and your topics, Captain. Although I do not fly propeller-driven aircraft, I enjoy your channel and the topics that you bring to YouTube, Captain Magnar. Thank you, A Freight Dog's Life, for your response. I understand you. Under normal circumstances, you would not have aborted this takeoff. Let me explain. This video was recorded during a typewriting course. After completing the exercises in the training program, we had some extra time. I asked the crew if they had a wish, and since they are from the Philippines, they asked for engine failure at Catastrophic. At this time, the runway at Catastrophic was only 900 meters long, and almost every takeoff left no margins for error. During my CPL and ATPL ground school, and when I got my first typewriting in transport category aircraft, the general understanding was that you made your decision to stop or continue at the V1 call. I learned that the accelerate stop distance was computed to allow for the aircraft to accelerate for 2 seconds past V1 before stopping. The first second was pilot reaction time, and the next second was aircraft reaction time. I also learned that minimum V1 is VMCG, minimum control speed ground. Well, neither is correct today. The certification requirements for transport category aircraft are found in CS25 for EASA member states and FAR 25 for the US. Those regulations are coordinated to allow for easy certification of aircraft manufacturer in the respective states. I will show the text from CS25 as the aircraft is certified by EASA. You can freeze the video and read the text for yourself. I will just point out the most important stuff. 1. There is a relation between V1 and VEF, engine failure speed. The speed where the critical engine is supposed to fail. Minimum VEF is VMCG, minimum control speed ground. 2. Minimum V1 is VEF plus the time it takes for the pilot to recognize and react to the engine failure. This time is minimum 1 second. ATR uses 1 second in their definition. That means before you reach V1, you must already have decided to stop. 3. When passing V1, the thinking phase is over and you start to act, which means applying maximum braking and moving the power levers to ground idle. On other aircraft types, it may also include deploying the spoilers. 4. The accelerate stop distance includes a distance equivalent to 2 seconds at V1 speed before deceleration. AMC 101H3 clearly states, this additional distance is not intended to allow extra time for making a decision to stop as the airplane passes through V1. This is similar to what you do when you're reaching minima during an instrument approach. If you are not visual before minima, your decision is to go around when you reach minima. I have made a video just about that, and you can see it here. I made a link below. So when pilot monitoring calls V1 and you have not decided to stop, you are committed to go. If you decide to stop after V1, you may not be able to stop, either because there is not enough runway or because the brake energy limit is exceeded. It is also very important that pilot monitoring calls V1 at the correct speed. The best practice is to finish the callout when the aircraft is reaching V1. What are the risks involved in a high-speed abort? I will use data collected in the period from 1959 to 1999. Out of 230 million flights, there were 76,000 rejected takeoffs. 74 of them, or 0.1%, resulted in accidents or incidents. 54%, or 40 of the incidents, happened after the takeoff had been rejected at a speed above V1. Clearly, aborting a takeoff at a speed greater than V1 is very risky. 80% of 59 of the incidents could have been prevented, either by continuing the takeoff, by using correct stopping technique, or by better pre-flight planning. Godofredo Piramos Airport, also known as Cateclan Airport, serves Boracay, the most famous holiday destination in the Philippines. Today it's a modern airport with an 1800 meters long runway, but 15 years ago the runway was 900 meters long, and towards the east there was a hill. The apron was very small and very busy. It was my favorite airport. I have made a video about my time in the Philippines. Link below. For 6 months, the winds at Cateclan are favoring runway 06. For the other 6 months, the winds are favoring runway 24. When departing for Manila from runway 24, we could carry about 60 passengers. There were no obstacles in the departure area, but when departing from runway 06, we had to climb over this hill. Because of the required single engine climb gradient, the number of passengers was reduced to around 40. Almost every departure was with maximum allowed takeoff weight. The aircraft in question is an ATR 72-500. It is a twin turboprop transport category aircraft. Depending on the version, it has a maximum takeoff weight of 22,500 kilos or 22,800 kilos. It depends on the modification of the landing gear. The capacity is typically 68 to 72 passengers. Normal engine power during takeoff is 90% of maximum available power, called reserve takeoff power. When an engine fails during takeoff, a system called ATPCS will automatically increase the power of the operating engine to reserve takeoff power, and the propeller of the failed engine is automatically feathered. All the pilot has to do is to fly the aircraft. Many alerts are inhibited during takeoff because they may distract you. This ensures that you will only get alerts for serious conditions like engine fire. Smaller problems are dealt with once you are safely up in the air. To take off in maximum weight, an ATR 72 will normally need 1500 meter long runway. So operating on a 900 meter long runway requires special considerations. When departing from Cateclan, we use the following procedure. When lining up, after making a 180-degree turn at the end of the runway, we use the reverse to align the cockpit with a red and yellow pole indicating the main wheels are 2 meters from the runway end. I call it the pole position. We applied brakes and increased power to the ramp. This gave reserve takeoff power instead of normal takeoff power. When power was set, we released the brakes. When airborne, we climb with V2 instead of V2 plus 5, which is normal procedures. This gives slightly more drag than V2 plus 5, but you will clear close-in obstacles with a higher rate. At acceleration altitude, 500 feet for Cataclan, we will set the power levers to the notch and perform the climb procedure. The performance data shown in aircraft manuals are based on flight tests. Two important factors are the accelerate stop distance, ASD, and the takeoff distance, TOD, with one engine inoperative. The accelerate stop distance is determined as following. The critical engine is simulated fail 1 second before V1. At V1, the pilot starts to apply idle thrust and full braking. The brakes are fully worn to simulate a worst-case scenario. User reverse is not included in the calculation, unless specifically mentioned. As I said earlier, the accelerate stop distance includes a distance equivalent to 2 seconds at V1 speed before deceleration. This gives a little margin. The takeoff distance is determined in the following way. The critical engine is simulated fail at V1. The aircraft continues to accelerate past V1 with reserve takeoff power on the operating engine until reaching VR, rotation speed. When airborne, the aircraft shall pass over the end of the runway with a height of 35 feet or 15 feet from a wet or contaminated runway with a speed of V2. After the landing gear is retracted, the aircraft shall climb with a gradient of minimum 2.4% of the travel distance until reaching acceleration altitude. Then we level off and accelerate to the speed for the best rate of climb, reduce power to MCT, maximum continuous, retract the flaps and continue climbing. Minimum acceleration altitude is 400 feet. Obstacles might require a higher acceleration altitude. The obstacles must be overflown with a height of at least 35 feet, plus a safety gradient of 0.8% of the travel distance. Before the runway at Cataclan was extended, it had an elevation of 7 feet. The highest obstacle was 138 feet above the airport, or 145 feet above sea level. We had to cross over the obstacle with a height of 35 feet, so total 180 feet, plus 0.8% of the distance from the runway end to the obstacle. The distance is 698 meters, or 2,290 feet. 0.8% of 2,290 feet is 18 feet, giving a total of 198 feet. So let's say 200 feet. When flying commercially, we want to carry as much payload as possible. After all, it is the passengers and the cargo that pay our salaries. When the runway is long and there are no climb restrictions, we can load up the aircraft and go. Shorter runways require more planning. We do not calculate how much runway we need, but how much payload we can carry from that runway under the current conditions. As I said earlier, minimum V1 is engine failure speed plus 1 second. Maximum V1 is the rotation speed, VR. When calculating the accelerate stop distance, we want a low V1 as it gives a short accelerate stop distance. But with a low V1, the takeoff distance will be unnecessarily long, as it will take long time and a lot of runway to accelerate to rotation speed, VR. The optimum takeoff rate is one where the accelerate stop distance and the takeoff distance are equal. That gives us what we call a balanced V1. There are more factors to this equation, but I hope you get the point. For takeoff computations, we use software or charts like this to compute the regulatory takeoff weight, RTOW, which is the maximum takeoff weight under current conditions. This is the chart we used in the simulator. The takeoff run available, TORA, or the length of the runway, is 870 meters. The takeoff distance available, TODA, is the same. The accelerate stop distance, ASTA, is 950 meters, which means there is an 80 meters long stopway. We have 10 knots headwind, the temperature is 32 degrees, and the QNH is 1003, slightly below standard. Our takeoff weight must not exceed 17,372 kilos, minus 122 for the lower air pressure. So the regulatory takeoff weight is 17,250 kilos. In the simulator, I use 17,200 kilos. V1 is 96 minus 1 knot for the lower air pressure, so 95. Rotation speed is 100, V2 is 105. Those speeds are as low as they can be and still have the required margin to VMC and stall speed. VMC is the minimum control speed. In the simulator, the engine failed at 93 knots, just before V1. This barely gives time for the captain to react, but since I had briefed him to abort the takeoff, he did that. It is also worth mentioning that since he was prepared, he was able to react and the aircraft began to brake within 2 seconds after V1. Without my briefing, he would have continued. Then we had a second takeoff, where the engine failed between V1 and V2. The first officer was pilot flying, and this is how it went.
You're up. Engine failure. Right uptrim, 100% engine.
And they crossed over the hill. The altimeter showed slightly more than 200 feet. Remember, our calculation was 198 feet. So at this airport, continuing the takeoff was equally marginal as stopping. Such takeoffs require preparations and focus and precision. But how often does an engine fail at V1? This is a very rare event, right? If the engine fails 10 knots before V1 or 10 knots after V1, you suddenly have a much better margin. This video shows an approach over the hill to runway 24. We crossed the hill with 50 feet on the radio altimeter. The company had a rule that if you did not touch down before this little building, you had to go around. As long as you have discipline, respect the limitations and follow the procedures, it is safe. And that's all for this time. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day and happy landing.